I'm Becca Bowman, and my husband and I had two boys, Titus and Eli. And when they were born, I guess to tell you my experience with palliative care, I would need to tell a little bit of my story. So I'll give a little bit of background. So Titus, our oldest, was born in 2010, a completely healthy, beautiful little baby. And he quickly grew and passed milestone after milestone and was just doing amazing. We noticed a little bit of a speech delay at about 2.5, but we got him into speech therapy with promises that he had, the right skills everywhere else to really catch up and do well. And then we had our little Eli. So Eli was born when Titus was 3, and again, just a healthy baby boy, grew, reached his milestones early, even with Eli, and they were both just joyful, wonderful little boys. And about 3.5 years of age, Titus started having seizures. And that was, kind of out of nowhere. There was no reason for it. And that began a very long journey of us trying to figure out what was going on with our son. So he started having seizures. They increased in kind and in the amount he was having a day. And we noticed he was losing skills. He was not able to recall things as easily as he used to be able to. He was falling a lot. We could notice his sight. Something was going on with his eyesight. And in the middle of all of this, we're seeing doctors and doing testing and just really trying to figure out what's going on, because he was very healthy, up until this point. So we actually did not get a diagnosis for him until just before he turned 5. And the diagnosis was a rare, fatal genetic disease called Batten disease. His form is specifically CLN2, which means a late infantile. And basically what's happening in their bodies is it's something they're born with genetically. They have a mutated gene, and over time they're missing an enzyme. So over time there's buildup happening in their bodies because the enzyme is not there to clean their cells out. And so we don't see it right at the beginning because the buildup hasn't done any damage, but as the buildup happens, we see damage and eventually cell death, which is what eventually causes them to die. And so we were told Titus would not see his teenage years, and that we needed to test Eli to figure out if he had it as well. He would be still pre-symptomatic, and but he had a 25% chance of having it. So we tested him and found out, that he also has this disease. So, we're going from a normal family who has all these ideals of what life is going to be like with two crazy boys, and jumping into this rare disease that is so complicated, and it affects every part of their body. So Titus, by the time he was 5, he had lost his ability to see. He was blind. He couldn't walk anymore. He no longer had the ability to say any words. He was completely G-tube fed. So I'm going from, I had no medical background. I was a psychology major and I loved working with kids, but no medical background. And suddenly we're having to learn how to do, G-tube feeds and suctioning and oxygen and reading, we even had to cath him a few times. Just all these different things that I never anticipated having to figure out how to do for my child. So when we got the diagnosis, our doctor gave us this option. He talked to us about this pediatric palliative care team that they had at the hospital, and that it would be really beneficial to us to consider this resource. I had no idea what it was, and they basically said that it's a team who's going to just walk through this journey with us. And if we have questions, we have a place to go to easily get those answered. And we'll have a team that's working together instead of all these separate, specialists and doctors and everything. Everyone's going to be talking, and there's somebody that's always grouping everyone together to keep everyone on the same page. And for me, I felt like my tool belt was filled with, like a screwdriver and like maybe a little hammer. And these guys to me were like power tools. So I said yes. And so our first initial experience with palliative care was going into, Titus was actually hospitalized most of the month of May right after his diagnosis. So our first experience was in the hospital, meeting in a conference room with the palliative care nurse practitioner and the chaplain. And they were so incredible. I mean, you walk into a room like that knowing that you're talking to a parent whose child has just been terminally diagnosed. And we're trying to process all of that, you know. Sorry. And it was just one of those first meetings where you really talk about, like, what are your goals? And we didn't know what the future would look like. We didn't know how long we would have Titus. Like, we're told, you know, Batten kids with this type usually pass away between 8 and 12 years old. And Titus at the time was 5. So in our minds, you know, this is kind of a long-term thing, and we're not ready to give up. We want to keep fighting. We want to treat him. We want to give him the best quality of life possible. And that just kept coming out as our goal. And so they said, okay, they referred us to a company called Trinity Kids Care. And they came out, like as soon as we got discharged from the hospital, they were here that day to meet with us here. And so we went over everything about Titus, just talked about, you know, head to toe, all the needs that we would possibly have. And she introduced me to the nurse that would be like on our team, on our care team, the chaplain, the social worker, and that was like kind of our trio, like power team. And they were on call whenever we would need them. And if, you know, they weren't on call, somebody was on call. So, so the way it was explained to us with palliative care is that they were going to help us treat Titus, whatever our goals were, for as long as we needed them. They explained that kids, I mean, they even shared, like, some kids, like with cancers, either they're getting treatment, they're getting chemo, they can still be in the palliative care program. It's not like they're in end of life. And they can even graduate out of the palliative care program, you know. And so for us, it was encouraging to hear that. Not that we ever had the, you know, idea that Titus would be graduating out of the palliative care program, but just that we weren't just giving up and jumping into end of life. Like, this was a journey that they were going on with us. So they were just the most incredible tool for us. We had a lot of scary days with Titus, and I mean, like I said, I had no medical background, so there's a lot of times where I was learning right along with him, like how to intervene and what to do and how to read his body and know what he needs, because he can't tell me anymore. He couldn't see, you know. And they were just a phone call away. We had a nurse come every week. She came in and checked him. The chaplain would come in, and he would actually finger paint. We had, like, our whole kitchen had a tarp down, and Eli would strip him down to his diaper, and he would finger paint, and, like, basically Eli wanted to paint with his feet. But with Eli, you know, and Eli's going through so much change too, because his brother just stopped interacting with him how he used to. And so there was, like, this really neat emotional care for Eli as well that we received. The social worker came in, would check in on us at least once a month, if not more. And she always had just some incredible resources for us. We were able to go take the boys to Disneyland one time, kind of as a Make-A-Wish, but it wasn't Make-A-Wish, it was a different program, but they knew who, you know, to refer us to. They just had a lot of really great resources for us to really be a family and have experiences with our kids that were kind of taken away because of the disease. And then on top of that, just medically, oh gosh, we had like such a hard time before we had palliative care getting durable medical equipment into our home, and just insurance fighting over who's covering it and what, and you know, me not even knowing what to ask for or what to anticipate. And they just came in and kind of just took over. It was like, okay, we're going to get you this and this. We had like a hospital bed, and we had our oxygen concentrators, and we had tanks, you know, on the side, just so in case we ran out of anything or had power down or whatever. We had suction machines in every room. We had, you know, it was just like, for me, the peace of mind knowing I've got everything I need to really care for my son, and I didn't have to suddenly go, oh, we need this like right now, and you know, it's 3 months out because, or 6 months out because insurance doesn't want to hurry it along. I could just call and say, we really need this. Medication would get delivered to our door. It was incredible not having to haul everybody out to the pharmacy to go get that. And they would do different things. We had massage therapy, so they would come in, like, I mean, Titus's muscles would get so tight, and you know, unless we were really able to like actively move him and he was having a good day, he just like was really in one position a lot. And so they would come in and do like massage therapy on him. You know, the chaplain would come in and he'd pray with him and would sit with me and make sure I'm doing okay. It was incredible. And so then there's the other step to it. You know, we were in that palliative care program for a year and a half, and that last